10. The Travels of Marco Polo. Physically confined, Marco Polo's only freedom was in his mind. He could recall plenty of adventures. In 1269, Polo traveled across Asia. 24 years later, he finally returned to his native Venice. Before he arrived, Venice declared war on neighboring Genoa. Barred from entering the city, Polo and his crew assaulted Geneon authorities. In prison for the attack, Marco Polo passed the time by telling his cellmate, Rustichello of Pisa, of his exploits in China. Rustichello wrote down the tales that eventually became the travelogue, The Travels of Marco Polo. To entertain themselves, Polo and Rustichello made some facts up. A bestseller immediately upon release, audiences were exposed to Asian cultural norms for the first time, like paper money and pasta. Additionally, they learned of mysterious lands inhabited by cannibals, unicorns, and people with dog-shaped heads. 9. Mars Candies. By most measures, Frank Mars was a failure. Forrest Mars was a success. Yet, Frank was the one bailing his son out of jail that night in Chicago. Frank did not live a life as sweet as the candy that eventually bore his name. He got into chocolatiering out of necessity. Immobile due to childhood polio, Frank made desserts with his mother. That early interest in confectionary arts fostered a lifelong passion for candy. In the early 1900s, he strained his marriage to Ethel Kissack by marketing the Candy Marrow bar. The struggling entrepreneur lost 2 businesses and a marriage. Divorcee Ethel moved her and their son, Forrest. 7. The Periodic Table of Elements. There's a reason his title was King Augustus the Strong, and not Augustus the Smart. In 1701, the Polish monarch was tricked by small-time con artist Johann Friedrich Böttger. Böttger's signature trick as a magician was pulling out 2 silver coins, which then disappeared and reappeared as a single gold piece. Augustus the Strong took this as proof that Böttger had mastered the art of alchemy. To preserve the scientific breakthrough, Augustus jailed the magician until he revealed his secret. 6. Auntie Anne's Pretzels. Auntie Anne's history is as twisted as their trademark pretzels. The mall food court staple was established to offer financial and spiritual support following heartbreak. The titular Anne was the Amish-born Anne Byler. In her mid-20s, Byler's infant daughter, Angela, died in a farm accident. In 1975, a runaway tractor struck the 19-month-old. Both parents were thrown into a deep depression. Their marriage dissolved and Anne openly contemplated suicide. 5. Hip-hop. A literal divine spark formed hip-hop. Record-setting heat waves, routinely above 100 degrees Fahrenheit, cooked New York City in a crucible. Blasting air conditioners strained the electrical grid. When 2 lightning strikes flooded the system on July 13, 1977, the surge was too strong. The city was plunged into darkness. The numbers from the ensuing chaos are absurd. For 25 hours, the city was thrown into a blackout. It was quickly illuminated by rioters' flames. Arsonists set 1,037 fires that night. In total, $300 million was lost in damages. 3,776 people were taken into custody in the largest mass arrest in the city's history. 4. The ratings. William Desmond Taylor's salacious life is prime for a movie. It would definitely be rated R on February 1, 1922, blood spewed from one of Hollywood's most famous directors' corpse. All police knew for certain was that Taylor was murdered. Nothing else about the case made sense. Witnesses gave conflicting reports. Some saw a man leave after hearing an explosion. Others claimed actress and Taylor's girlfriend Mabel Norman fled the scene. Taylor had tried to get Norman to quit her cocaine use. Theorists speculate drug runners retaliated against Taylor for costing them a prime customer. Another suspect, Charlotte Shelby, was reportedly angered over 49-year-old Taylor's affair with her teenage daughter, Mary Miles Minter. The bullet found in Taylor's neck was similar to one Shelby owned. Complicating the case was the fact that Paramount studio head, Charles Leadon, planted a woman's lingerie at the scene to hide Taylor's bisexuality. However, the person with the most motive to kill Taylor did not even know he was alive. 3. The Tour de France. In the good old days, you could beat up the president and only spend 2 weeks in jail. If people in 1899 were as sensitive about assaulting world leaders as they are now, we never would have gotten the Tour de France. The triggering event for Comte Jules Albert de Dion's very real crime of attacking President Émile Lebet was the fraudulent charges against Alfred Dreyfus. The soldier was the victim of an anti-Jewish conspiracy. He was framed for treason after manufactured evidence alleged he sold German officers. 2. Superman. Jerry Siegel lost his hero, so he made a new one. In 1932, his father, Mitchell Siegel, was assaulted. A Jewish immigrant from Lithuania, Mitchell started a small second-hand clothing store. Around 8:00 at night, 3 men attempted to rob the enterprise. They fired 2 shots at Mitchell. Luckily, both missed the shop owner, but it was still lethal. The fright caused by the shooting prompted a fatal heart attack. 1 year later, Jerry Siegel sketched the first Superman adventure. It appropriately depicts the Man of Steel rescuing a shopkeeper from muggers. Other elements of the comic book character echo Siegel's own tragic backstory. Both lost their father at a young age. 1. Kentucky Fried Chicken. Colonel Sanders is fictional. Harland Sanders was real. The genteel poultry magnate dressed in a bespoke white suit is a caricature, an abstraction. The actual Harland Sanders was a vengeful, short-tempered man. The only thing the company got right is that he sure loved fried chicken. Residents referred to North Corbin, Kentucky as Hell's Half-Acre. Bootleggers ran the city through intimidation. One of the few legitimate operations was a Shell gas station where Sanders served food. Local rival, Matt Stewart, ran his own chain of restaurants. To get a leg up on the competition, Stewart painted his own slogan over Sanders' billboards. Sanders could not tolerate such flagrant disrespect. Fittingly, Sanders was no chicken. Gun-toting Sanders drove to confront Stewart. 2 accompanying Shell officials, Robert Gibson and H.D. Shelburne, waited in the wings. Upon arrival, Stewart shot Gibson in the chest. Sanders picked a revolver off the dying man. Both he and Shelburne fired back. Shelburne's shot hit Stewart's thigh, Sanders his shoulder. Both men were cleared off all charges. With his main adversary serving an 18-year sentence in prison, Sanders was free to invest in a standalone restaurant. Sanders' name went on to become synonymous with one of the most successful companies in history. Not a breast-beater, Stewart never felt any guilt for killing Gibson. Gibson's family responded by paying a deputy 2 years later to assassinate Stewart.